Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Travel and Tourism Podcast, my first season. Very special guest today. I first heard of this guest because he was posting such amazing pictures on the official XGO Facebook group, and they were just so damn interesting. I reached out to him, see if he would be a guest. He graciously agreed. He grew up in Alhambra, just outside LA, now living in San Diego. His first season, get this, was in December 1980 in Magic Haiti. He was going there to be a stagiaire, to be a choreographer, regisseur, eventually became a light engineer, but he's going to explain all that for us. So please help me give a warm my first season welcome to Mr. Doug Evenson. Hey, Doug, how are you today, sir?
Hey, Greg, thank you very much. I'm doing fine.
Okay, great. So are you ready to light this fire, as the kids say?
I'm going to do my best to keep it interesting for everyone. It's been a long time. 1980 is a number of years ago, but I'll try to keep the memories fresh.
Well, I hear the 80s were the best time, were they not?
I think so. There were 100 villages all around the world. We were moving every 6 months at that time, so it was quite an experience. It was interesting constantly.
Okay, you're right about that. Now, so how we do here in the show is I'm going to ask you to take me back in time. Yeah, you were kind enough to supply me with a brief bio of yourself. I know at one point you did get a scholarship for theater. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was in high school and was into sports and theater, and I did very well in the all-school play that year and won a minor financial scholarship to college.
Now, was there a certain type of theater was it the Bard, Shakespeare, or was it anything?
Yeah, I was doing theater. So anything that we were doing, that wasn't my primary thing. I was mostly into football and basketball and doing all of those things. But off season, which was in the springtime approaching summer, we were into theater. We did little Shakespeare in high school. It was mostly musicals. And then the play that I was renowned for was called Flowers for Algernon. And I played Charlie. They made a movie out of it later in life. Due to that performance, I won a small scholarship, and it took me on to college.
All right. Now, from what I've seen from 80s high school movies, being an athlete like yourself, football and basketball didn't often go to theater, right? But you were doing both. Am I right? Was that common back then?
It wasn't, but my theater director always said, you need to be an athlete if you're going to be a good actor. You need to have great physical agility and coordination because acting is half doing lines and half stage action. In Club Med, I would say it was 90% stage action. So it's funny, they were looking for dancers originally when I was a sophomore in high school. And I had done some grammar school theater, just messing around. I was never had a problem with public speaking. So I just went ahead and went into that dancer program. And in the off seasons, that's what I was doing. In the spring and early summer, it was theater. And the fall and winter, it was football and basketball.
Now, were you still in school when you found out about Club Med?
I was just finishing college. I had 19 quarter units left to complete to get my degree. And my father had been to Club Med about 3 years earlier. He had gone to Guadeloupe on his honeymoon and had come back with this was his fourth wife at that time, had come back and said, you need to work there. This is a place where you need to work. And I just sort of, blew it off. I didn't think much of it at the time. And then I was working. Obviously, I worked all through college. No one paid my way to anything. But you could do it back then in the 80s, pay your way through in the late 70s, pay your own way to college. So I was doing that. I was working in early childhood development. And then after I ended that and got a job as a stage manager for a theater in Downey, California, that was actually paying me $10 an hour in 1979. That's big money. Anyway, there I did that for about a year. I was still going to school all this time, just finishing up. And a friend of mine, Mark, saw an ad in the LA Times for Club Med was looking for theater directors. It was a 2-line little ad in the old newspaper ads. Most of you probably don't even remember those. They did interviews. They called us to the Universal Hilton. Where are they going to go to look for theater people, right? Hollywood. So that's what they did. They put it off and they got a room in Universal Hilton. And I think they scheduled 30 or 40 interviews. I'm not sure exactly how many. It was It was there that I went and met Sue Rager, who was doing the organizational activities for that stage program. And she eventually invited 15 of us down there.
And Sue, I guess she worked out in head office, this Sue Rieger?
She was a well-known regisseur. She wasn't really in the offices. She was always in villages, but they had tapped her to organize this particular stagiaire program. It's always that way for regisseur stagiaires. Both times I went through the program twice, and both times it was the second time it was a regisseur I knew from previous seasons, and then this time, of course, my first season it was Sue, and okay. And so she was there.
And you also mentioned in your bio that the friend that found the ad for you basically applied with you, and 4 days before he was scheduled to leave, or she was scheduled to leave, they chickened out. Is that correct?
You know, it was my oldest friend, Mark. We grew up across the street from each other. I've known him since I was 2 years old. He found the ad. He knew I was in the theater. I went there. When he was doing his interview, there was a written part, and he was first. So he came down, and I sort of helped him with some answers because I was the one who was in the theater. And he went back up, and then I went up second and met Sue. I remember the only question I missed was the difference between omnidirectional and unidirectional microphone. I was an actor, not a tech guy. Anyway, so Sue picked us both up, and then Mark, we were going to leave in 2 weeks, and then Mark, 3 days before we were going to go, he decided, I don't really know, this woman changed this, and it changes your whole life. It truly did mine. So he chickened out, and a friend of mine who was a fraternity buddy of mine, I was in Phi Sigma Kappa fraternity, and his name was Paul Lees. And he jumped on the ticket with me, and I called Sue and I said, "Look, I got someone. I think he'll work for you." And on my word, they invited Paul, and Paul came with us to Haiti.
Now, did any of this interview or the job at the time, did it require you to be able to dance?
Well, I was going for a stagiaire for regisseur, so yeah.
So how did she determine if you could dance and we're not BSing her just to get in?
There was no. I really didn't know what she was hiring for. We sat in a hotel room and talked. There was no physical demonstration of any of my abilities.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think she had a different aspect of it. She knew that she was looking for outgoing people who got along good with people, who were easy talkers, who were the type of people who could be good at Club Med. And then she was going to start with people who would be good for Club Med and whittle it down to ones that could be regisseurs. So many good dancers just can't be good at Club Med.
That's right. Yeah, you have to be a jack of all trades, right?
You have to be really an adventurer, I think. You have to have an adventurous lifestyle. You know, when I was younger, I was in the middle of college. I took 6 months off right in the middle. This would have been 1982. And 15 of us took 3 stations wagons all the way down through Mexico, through Guatemala and Honduras. We left the cars in La Ceiba, Honduras, and took the boat off to Roatan, an island where we camped up in the hills for 3 weeks. So I've always been a bit of an adventurer. In fact, coming back from that trip was my first experience on a DC-3, which in Club Med, I later had another experience on a DC-3, which, if you don't know, is the tail-dragging 2-engine prop plane you see on Indiana Jones.
Okay. Well, let's get back to December 80. Now, from the time of your interview to, how long did you wait to hear back from Sue? Weeks, months, days?
It was probably, 2 or 3 weeks. That's sort of funny, too, because I was at a football game with my father at the Coliseum, and my friend Mark was at my house. My friends hung out at my place even when I wasn't there. And so it was at my apartment with my other friend Greg, and I got paged over the Coliseum, an emergency call from the Coliseum PA system. It was hilarious. And they thought they were really excited for me about it. And they made an emergency call at the Coliseum.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
This is the LA Coliseum, right?
Yep.
Okay.
The LA 1979, 1980. So, yeah.
Wow. Did you have any visions of where you would be sent first? Was there anywhere you didn't want to go, or Haiti sounded like just a place for you?
None. No idea.
Okay.
Blue. Hey, what is Haiti except a really poor country in the Caribbean? That was my only apprehension. Haiti? Why are they sending me to that poor? I could use many adjectives, but not really in your mind. Before you go there, you would anticipate a wonderful place.
Well, tell me, do you remember anything about your first week arriving? Do you remember any details?
Oh, look, I remember pulling up in the bus and seeing the Animateur Mary. Mary was famous back then, and the chief of the village was Ben Buznina, and of course his wife Lily was with him. But Mary was the first one I saw in his huge, hat. He had a large, like a straw hat, and of course the Perios everywhere, that was my first introduction to Perios. Who knows what the hell they are. And but it was him sort of being goofy and goofing around, and I I sort of designated him immediately as a person of importance in the village, even though he was the goof, like the fool, an animator, sort of, right? Isn't that the definition?
Yes.
But I designated him an important person in the village. And as village life continued, I learned more. He was really big with him, and Ben did a lot of the organization together. Mary was a really heads-up guy.
So did you get any kind of Club Med culture shock when you arrived? Like, for instance, you mentioned Parios, but my culture shock was like topless women everywhere, which I wasn't accustomed to. So any kind of Club Med culture shock hit you? Do you recall?
The biggest thing for Paul and I is, of course, we're Californians and we're wearing our boxer bathing suits. And we were ridiculed for our boxer bathing. Not the
okay.
first months in, we're wearing these boxer bathing suits. And of course, the goal at Club Med as your GO is to see how small you can get your bikini.
That's right.
I think the smallest bikini wins. I, in the end, ended up with string bikinis, all of that. But that's
okay.
Later.
Well, no, anyway. but I'm sure, like, when you got there, you probably, because I talked to someone else who said when he got there, same thing as you, shock. Oh my God, the guys are not wearing it. He goes, I will never ever in my life wear one of those. And 2 weeks later, he had 5 of them. He said, because he said they're just so damn comfortable. He told me,
My thing was. I didn't want to be out, that I didn't look at it as odd. It was just, I knew Europeans wore those. We would never wear Speedos here in the California, vice versa. Right. But I wanted to be part of the group. So Paul and I literally made an effort, and we went in like the first week and bought some Speedos, and we would go on the beach by ourselves down at the end and try to tan it out and burn out the tan from the boxers and get down to your Speedo 10 line. I was never put off by it. It was more wanting to be part of the group as quick as possible.
And how many of you were sent to this choreographer stage? Like, do you recall? 10 people?
15 of us, yeah.
How many?
15.
15, okay. And
it was a full-on stage.
And approximately how long did it take? 2 months, 3 months?
The stage was for the entire season. We went there in December, and so the season had started in October, right? We arrived in December, and we were to stay until the end of the season and assignment to new villages, which would happen on the normal end of the season time. So there was never any end of time period. We didn't know when we were going. As a matter of fact, I made a tremendous error. I went through until about March, and nothing was happening. Nothing was happening. I said, well, I'll go wait at home. So I literally left the village and waited home. And I think I almost missed my Club Med experience because I think that put them off. And then eventually it took 2 months before I got a call to that second village to Cancun, or that first village really for me to Cancun. So I think I made a mistake there and said, well, no one really told me, no, you have to stay. You should stay, whatever you want, sort of thing. There were never any time constraints or designations of the stage.
All right. But in your bio, and as I mentioned in your intro, you went to be part of this choreographer stage, but something happened along the way and you became a lighting engineer?
Yeah, and it happened to me in college as well. I won the scholarship, obviously, for acting, but when I was in theater, I had switched over to technical theater and eventually was working for a degree in stage management with a minor in political science. If I couldn't be a theater guy, I was going to be a politician. Anyway, so I was just studying law a little bit too. I was, trying to back up everything I could, but you didn't know where you were going to go.
What was the genesis or the spark that made you change?
Club Med? Yeah. So anyway, I switched over to tech and theater, and the same thing happened at Club Med. I was with all the actors there, and they weren't really Club Med people. They were more acting people, and I didn't enjoy time with them, except one. I fell in love with Veronique, my first French girl. But other than her, I just really didn't enjoy the group too much. And I started hanging out with the light engineer, Dominique. And Dominique and I started partnering up. I didn't come to Club Med poor, so I I funded him for the blackjack table once a week. And at the end of the season, we each had over $500 in orange
Oh,
beads.
wait a minute, Doug. Are you saying you staked him
Yes, I staked Dominique.
and he
We
was that good at cards?
He was great.
Okay. So, do you recall what you were? If it's not too personal question, how much money you were making a month back then in 1980?
$500, $500 a
Oh,
month.
500. Wow. So I made less than you in 1994. Okay. Okay. Isn't salary supposed to go up, not down? Okay.
They say that, but that's what it was, and that wasn't anything. But of course, you didn't spend a penny of it, so I would, be very healthy and end the season with about $2,500 in my pocket.
Okay. So I take it you weren't a smoker or a drinker then.
Not too much, a little bit of both, but
Okay.
as moderation, and I tried to find it free where I could in the drinking part.
Now, where was the? I've never been to Haiti, so was the casino close to the Club Med where you would stake your friend?
It wasn't a casino. We would do casino night around the bar, and
With real cash?
No, with bar beads.
Oh, Barbie. Okay, sorry.
With,
I thought you meant you bought Barbies with the money after. Okay.
No, I staked him to bar beads, and the thing was with the blackjack, dealer takes push. If it's a tie,
Oh,
wins. So we had that advantage, and we cleaned up. So, like I said, I ended up with $500 worth of orange bar beads.
and not only that, like for also the push. Did they have just one shoe or like? Well, they probably weren't changing the cards that often. I'm guessing too,
Dominique
right?
would work on a shoe. He had probably 4 decks in it, and
Okay.
he would shuffle it out, and he was playing straight up. We weren't trying to do anything. They won as much as they would win, but we always at the end of the day were up.
Well, what's good about the bar beads was when you got pushed in the pool, they floated to the surface, right? I mean, that was the one advantage.
I
So
didn't
what?
really like tickets in the winter villages.
That's right. Yeah, if you forgot them in your jeans and put them in a wash, well, yeah,
Gone forever.
that's right. What else do you remember from your first season? Anything unusual happen? Any funny stories?
Well, there's Dominique, the Vendredi Tres, which was one of the ships in the large ships, and they just had that big show in New York in 1980 with the tall ship. So it was one of them, and it was at the village the whole season I was there. Obviously, Ben, as chief of the village, was really important to me. He and Lily sort of not really took me. They were just friendly with all new geos. They really cared about where you were going, and so it was Ben eventually who 3 seasons later took me out of being a light engineer to being an animateur because he had seen that in me and he had been an animateur and he taught me how to be an animateur. And that was in Paradise Island 3 seasons later. Another thing that happened when I was in Haiti that I will never forget, the second week we were there, Baby Doc visited. He's the dictator of Haiti at that time. Papa Doc had died about 8 years earlier, I think, and Baby Doc was now president, and he came to Club Med.
Maybe Doc Duvalier came?
Sir, Baby Doc Duvalier.
Okay. Yeah, I guess you don't forget something like that. Okay.
No, I watched him walk across the restaurant far on the other side, and I remember we were sitting with a guest from the island, and I refer how interesting we had Baby Doc, and he freaked out. Don't you
Okay.
dare, don't you dare, he like warned me, don't you dare say that in this country. Don't you, no, that's not a term we use ever. I'm shocked you would even, I mean, I hear you read me the rights. I was a little scared for a moment.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Now, so May 81, they send you to Cancun as light engineer with Mike Coltman, correct?
That's correct. It was Mike. I forget his wife's name. She was also, all the wives of the CDBs were important. She was always there and around, but yeah, it was Mike.
Mike was from England?
Yeah.
Okay. So how was your season in Cancun as light engineer?
So Cancun started, as I said, it was different because I went 2 months before I arrived, and there was a lot of doubt whether I was even going to stay in Club Med. I realized that I had made that terrible error, but eventually got the call and got called down their lights. I don't know if you've seen the pictures of the village that I posted, but it is, of all of the village I worked at, the most old, rustic, antiqued equipment. I think I got electrical shocks working on that electrical system once a week. It was a regular thing. So you had to be very careful at Club Med. There were dangerous things around there that you could really hurt yourself with if you weren't, up and about your business. So anyway, that old light board and doing the lights there. But the really important thing that happened to me when I was in Cancun is I started doing a pre-dinner dance. And it was sort of like repeated. And I got to where there were repeated movements. And I just got up there and started leading them. And that led to Mike inviting me and the chief of excursions, Richard, to do a rock and roll show. So Richard and I did this rock and roll show based a lot on Bye Bye Birdie and West Side Story. Krupke was in it, that sort of thing. And we put this show together because Mike obviously wasn't happy with the regisseur. That happened a lot going to Village, and the entertainment just wasn't rolling. And so we did that show. It was a good success. And then that brings me to the second experience in a DC3, because Richard was trying to organize better excursions. And one of the ones he was doing was to Chichen Itza, which everyone wanted to visit. So he did a test excursion with GOs, and I volunteered to go, and we went to the Cancun airport, jumped in this DC3, fly into Chichen Itza. The airplane goes to land, and I have never been in an airplane that was braking so hard upon landing, just counter rotating the props and braking like crazy. I'm thinking, what's going on? And finally, when he stopped the plane and turned around, we were literally 10 feet from the edge of the cliff. It was amazingly close, and so we go there, we have the day, and it was nice. I climbed up inside the pyramid of Chichen Itza and climbed up the top and took picture, was in the ball ring where if you win the game, you get killed sort of thing. And I remember that historical lesson. And then we got back on the plane, and the takeoff, it went down the same runway, and we reached the end and sort of went off the end and dipped. We didn't have enough speed yet, so it just sort of went down into the valley and then picked up speed and picked up, and we made it back to Cancun. And Richard said, "No, we'll make that a bus trip."
Yeah, was the pilot doing this as part of the thrill of the excursion, or
doing it because that was the only way to get the plane up and down? And there were other planes there. He wasn't the only one doing it, but it was just too. I think it was too much on the edge. I think Richard saw visions of Club Meds being sued into forever. Anyway, as the chief of excursions, things that go through his mind. So but I got to have that experience, and that was quite wonderful. I really enjoyed that.
You have any other stories like the DC3 that happened at Cancun? Any kind of crazy, funny stories, Doug?
There's a couple things that happened. I'll go through them quickly. When the day I arrived in Cancun, I was walking from the main center where the discotheque is up to where the typical restaurant is in the sailing area. So there's a bit of a walk along a marsh, pretty much. And I got shit on by a pelican. There are huge. There's pelicans all over Cancun. It's wonderful to sit there and watch them diving into the ocean and picking up birds. I mean, they do it constantly all day long, so it's quite a show. But I didn't know that at the time, and I was just walking along, and pelican shit is not something to be tried.
Wait, Doug, are you saying a pelican defecated on you? Is that what you're saying?
Pardon me. Yes, I'm sorry for that.
No problem.
An appropriate word. Yes, he did defecate from rather a high altitude upon me. And it landed all down the side of my right leg. I mean, literally from hip to shoe, covered. And I thought, in my first day, I'm walking around the village to see what it is. I thought, oh God, is this going to be? And so inauspicious, but it didn't mean anything. I just thought I'd share that. I made some good friends there that I'll never forget. One of them was Vince. Vince was a British guy, and he taught me, here's another cuss word, bollocks. I'd never heard that word before, and Vince used it constantly. So I hope that's appropriate or not.
Sure. Oh, you could swear in English slang. That's no problem. Okay.
Right. And Vince was in love with a girl named Michelle. Well, Michelle had previously been the girlfriend of the gestionnaire. I forget his name, French guy, nice guy, really handsome guy. And Vince was a good looking guy. Anyway, so we did a Geo show. It was a lip sync playback show, as they all were, but this was sort of a rock and roll lip sync. And he came out and he dedicated his song to Michelle, the one he loves. And so we were the following act. So Vince comes right in and go, no, this song goes to Michelle, the one who loves me. and we did Twist and Shout. And we did it, the sound engineer had a version of the music where he had blotted out the song. And so we literally sang it. We sang Twist and Shout with the musical background. And that was quite different than what they normally did at Club Med. And we won the contest. Hence won the girl. So that was fun. The last thing I really want to talk about is the 4th of July. There was a chief of sports who, again, the name I don't remember. Someone will probably remember. He was pretty well known. And he came out and we were doing 4th of July and he would always say, Cancun. Here we are at Cancun. It became a thing. So he goes, we're doing the fireworks show, and his the island at the end of the string of bungalows that goes out to this island in the middle of the lagoon. It's sort of an abandoned island out there. Well, we set up some of the fireworks from there, and the island caught on fire. and so it's burning away. And the chief was supposed to, and here we are in Cancun. We're going to burn the island.
Just nice save. Okay.
We're going to burn the island.
Were there palapas on this island?
No, they were concrete bungalows. If you know, they run for, at that time it ran from the pool center, and the bungalows went out like in two wings, one wing heading up towards the restaurant Tipic and sailing and all of that, and the other wing heading out towards this island where it just ended. You didn't leave the bungalows towards the island. You came towards the disco and the pool. The last thing about Cancun I want to say is I met Pierre Salinger there. We had lunch. They always did those big meetings in and around Club Med in Cancun, and this was a G88 meeting that they were having there. And Pierre Salinger, who was John F. Kennedy's press secretary, had lunch with me. And I talked as much as I could remember historically, but he wasn't really interested in going over the assassination very much.
So you had lunch with Pierre Salinger?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty incredible.
Him, I, and 6 other people at the table for 8, right?
Well, sure. But how did you know who he was?
Oh, recognized him right away.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Pierre Salinger was a pretty famous news guy when I was growing up, and I knew who he was.
Okay, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Now you're a California boy, right, Doug?
Yes, sir.
So you're from California. You go to Magic Katy for season, then Cancun. So what's it like going to the snow in Copper Mountain?
Never. I'm sorry, Greg. Pardon me.
No, it's okay. I was just curious. Did you request the snow village, or you were just sent there?
No, I never really requested a village ever. I sometimes got in touch with chief of villages I knew and say, hey, can I go with you? That sort of thing. It was much more important to me, the personalities than the village itself. When I was sent to Copper, I knew how to ski. I was a skier. I had learned to do that when I was younger, but I had never requested or imagined that I would be sent to a winter village.
And how did you like it or not?
Well, I drove there.
Oh, so, you did? Okay.
Yeah, got my car, and I had an old '69 Carmen Ghia, if you remember those. And,
yeah.
I had the ski rack on it, so I threw my skis on it and drove to Colorado. That was an interesting experience. Driving through Utah, there was a whiteout on the freeway. Of course, the whiteout was only 4 feet high, so as I got out of my car and stood up, you could see fine. But when you were in the car, it was a whiteout. So I got behind a semi and just followed him for 300 miles until we got out of it. That was my first experience long driving in snow. That was major. What the hell am I doing driving through the snow? But it's a beautiful drive. It really is.
You have a good season there?
I did. It's the winter village. I did Copper Mountain 3 times, and as I shared with you earlier, Greg, they sort of blend together, which is different from what. What I do remember about the first season is that was the season that Jean-Claude Keeley came to the village with Jim Carrey and Alan Thicke.
Oh, for the movie. You were there while they filmed the movie Club Med.
Yeah. They filmed Copper Mountain, the Club Med.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Wow. So you saw Jim Carrey before he was a big shot.
Yeah, I watched him do that stupid song he did for about 3 minutes and thought that's the stupidest thing I ever saw. And then, they normally hung around the fireplace there. Him and Alan Thicke, they'd hang around. They were pretty nice guys. They were funny just to sit and talk to, and they would sit and talk to. They hung around in the evening. The biggest thing that happened was Rita Coolidge did a concert. And so I had to spend the day setting up the lighting for her concert, and then the concert never made the movie. So,
well, could I ask one question about that movie? Now, was the Copper Mountain shut down for the whole production of this movie, or were there guests there too while they were filming?
Oh, no, it was open. There were guests there. It was full blown open. In fact, no one was really concerned too much about the movie except the extra work we had to do. The big thing was Jean-Claude Keeley was coming, and the chief of the village. He helicoptered him, and him and the chief of the village went and skied helicopter skiing for the day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty cool because a lot of people I know have seen this movie, but no one was actually there, working there as a geo while they were filming it. So that's pretty incredible.
It was not intrusive. It really wasn't. They did some scenes around the bar, but they normally did those scenes during the day when everyone was out skiing. They picked their times right when the village was empty to do that kind of stuff. It always looks like nighttime in there anyway, so what the hell. I think the other thing I really enjoyed about Copper Mountain is my friend Jim. We were in Cancun together, and then he was a ski instructor, so he was at Copper. And I went to a local, I forget the name of the local towns, and I bought some aquatic newts of all things, bought 12 of them. And I had them in an aquarium in my room, and we would rotate them out every week. And every week we did newt racing in the lobby.
Sorry, Doug. Just for the listeners, what is an aquatic newt?
Well, a newt, it's like a gecko.
Oh, okay.
Right. Again, in my pictures, there's pictures of Jim and I that I posted on the Geo site that show us racing newts. If you want to see what exactly that is, but they sort of crawl along like geckos do, and some of them go and some of them don't. We learned if you touch their tail, they'll go. So we'd had people bet on them and come and cheer for them. It was hilarious. It really was.
Now, were they betting bar beads again?
Bar tickets.
Oh, yeah, bar tickets at this point. Okay.
Well, at the winter villages, it was always bar tickets.
Oh, really? Was it? Okay.
No beads. Yeah.
Did not know that. It's okay if I jump ahead to Fort Royale, Doug.
Please do.
Where exactly is Fort Royale? Was that in Guadeloupe? Where was it again?
In Guadeloupe. It's on the Basse Terre. There's Grande Terre and Basse Terre. This is on the Basse Terre, the part of the island with the capitals on. I believe the Caravel was on the Grande Terre part. And that's very fuzzy, my memory of that island, but I'm pretty sure that's right.
And at one point, I know Fort Royale closed and they kept Caravel, correct?
Yeah, Caravel's the only one they kept. I don't know if I believe it's still open. I believe
yes.
They still have
still open.
But Fort Royale was sort of strange. It was never really, it wasn't made as a Club Med. It was a hotel out on a peninsula on a rocky point, sort of. And then down below, there was a grassy area for land sports and then a beach. So they did sailing and windsurfing on the beach, and they built a pool, and all the guests stayed in the hotel. Basically, it was 5 stories of hotel living.
Okay, and there you were also, in addition to lights, you were DJing as well, correct?
I was doing DJ. That was when Madonna first was coming out. So I got the request for Like a Virgin, and I was still into Prince 1984.
That's right, because right now we're in June 1984, and you're in Fort Royale. That's right. Madonna's is coming out. Now, how did you get your music back then?
They would send records. They would send 33-inch LPs to the villages. They would go first to the sound engineer and then to the DJ. I remember I was in Haiti when Michael Jackson's Thriller came out, and what a big deal that was for everyone in the village and Club Med. I mean, so many things came out of Thriller, but that's another story.
Yeah, there's a lot of number ones, so it's like almost any side you play, right? You're playing hits.
Always, yeah, for sure.
Do you have any other memories from Fort Royale?
Fort Royale was sort of a transition village. I had gone to Haiti, Cancun, Copper Mountain, Paradise Island. I'd been to Mauritius. I'd been to Bora Bora, back to Copper Mountain. And then I had some job offers in New York. So I took a couple months off. And I went to Chicago. I drove to Chicago and New York. And the job offers went well. I got a couple offers, but that really wasn't where I was at. So I drove all the way back from New York went to Washington. My dad was visiting there, and we did something together in D.C. And then I drove back to California and went on to Fort Royale. When I got there, it was lights and DJ, and I guess the most memorable thing we did was all of us dressed up as iguanas. We put on long tights and flippers on our hands and feet and climbed up in the trees about a mile from the village. There were like 15 of us. And then we did the night of the iguana, where all of the guests, we had a special excursions to see the mating of the iguanas, and it only happened once a year. And so we put all these guests in a bus at 4 a.m, got them up and drove them out to this like little forest, and there's 15 geos.
Oh no. I've heard these stories from the 80s. So how irate were some of the guests when they found out they weren't actually seeing real mating geckos?
Half and half.
Okay, half and half. Okay.
Rolling on the ground, hilarious. And the ones that were laughing sort of took the spirit out of the ones that were pissed. But some people really got pissed.
Then they filed a subsequent lawsuit and blah blah blah. Right?
I never heard about the lawsuits. The only lawsuit that I ever that I knew about was when I was in Ixtapa. This was later, of course, obviously. And they had fans in a number of villages. They used to have ventilator fans blowing above the theater, and like Stop had like 20 of them. One of the fans broke loose and spun down and hit a guy right between the eyes.
Yeah, I had that happen to me in Columbus. One of the blades came off.
Did you really? Well,
Oh yeah.
Well, it's a shared experience, though it wasn't personal by me.
No.
But I get to see I did get to see the result and deal with the result. I think about all the Super Bowls I watched in Club Med, crowded into a room with 50 people trying to, catch a glimpse of the action. That those memories sort of come back. Trying to organize TV, being in entertainment, I always had access to the satellites, and like in places like Dominican Republic or other villages, I always was sort of organizing the clandestine TV viewing when possible.
Now, in April 1985, you arrive at Playa. So after years of sound engineer and DJ, light engineer, am I correct that you became a choreographer and chief of animation in one shot?
Yeah, I have to take you back a little bit.
Sure.
From lights and sound to regisseur to animateur when I went to Paradise Island. And then immediately after that, I went to Mauritius Island, where I was supposed to be animateur again, but there was an animateur there. So I sort of did a little bit of, I hadn't done regisseur yet at that point. So I had directed a show. And it was Mike Coltman again, right? So I sort of, okay, do the rock and roll show. We know you know that show. I did that. And since we had an animateur, I sort of did a little bit of but we had a regisseur also. So I sort of did a couple shows, and then I went back to doing lights, and I added DJ. And I did lights and DJ at Mauritius. And then at Mauritius, and then Bora Bora, I was just lights. And then the next season at Copper Mountain, it was pure sound. And I was sound engineer for that season at Copper Mountain.
Okay, and then in October '84, you go back to Magic Haiti to do the stage choreographer again?
Exactly right. Yeah, no, I do the stage again, but this time really to do it.
Okay.
And I got proven again. Ben Buznita came to Fort Royale and interviewed a lot of us and asked us where we wanted to go, we wanted to do. And I said that was what I wanted to do. And Ben had always been a fan of mine. He knew me. So I was able to move into that stage again. But I got 4 months into, and that was my best village. I love that village, love those people, Max and Steph and Yes, and everyone there. It was a magic 4 months. And I was the one they called because Copper Mountain had a sound engineer problem. So I was the one they called, and I had to leave the village 2 months early to go be sound engineer at Copper Mountain, where they were not having a good season. So it was going from the most magical season I'd ever had to just another, let's get her done season.
But then, okay, now brings us up to April '85. So first time in Playa Blanca, correct?
And I'm regisseur, chief of animation. We don't have an animator, so I'm sort of doing some of that as well. I eventually did get an animator in there, and he turned out to be pretty good. He didn't know what he was doing, but again, like me, I gave him the same advice someone had given me, and he picked it up. So you can do it.
So so this is your first official village as a choreographer. So did you have any hard times getting GOs to rehearse or anything?
Yeah, I never pushed. Yeah, there's always a hard time. It becomes a different thing. When you have shows to do every night, the circus guy would get hurt. I go, got to go say, well, are you going to be okay for tonight? He'd get mad at me. You're not even worried about me. You're just worried about your show. Well, yeah, I am worried about my show. I love you, Eric, and I care about you deeply, but you're not going to die. Can you do the show? He was one of the big characters. So that sort of thing, always the pressure to make sure the people were, there and doing it. It's a drag. It can be if you're not having great fun, it can be work like any other job.
Well,
sometimes.
Yeah. Well, it's the time of the rehearsal, right? So you're looking at 11:30 midnight. So I never had a problem dancing. It was the rehearsal, which, you want me to memorize intricate dance steps at midnight. I don't know if it's going to happen, that well.
Yeah, it was, but I'd put out a call, and I always get generally enough people to show up. The best thing I ever did was I tried to do things that they wanted to do. I went and bought a bunch of roller skates one season, and we did Starlight Express. I'm getting ahead of myself, but we put Starlight Express on stage where we actually did the roller skate races, the train races around the audience. And the first time we did it, I had GOs coming up to me who had been around for 15 years. They were flabbergasted. They had never seen anything like it. And people were clamoring to join the show after we got it going. It was just when you do things that are different and a little bit special, the people light up for it. That was the thing I was the most proud of, Starlight Express, being able to actually get that on stage.
Did you like Playa? Did you like the layout of it? You know how it was a tiny village, yet they kind of packed a lot in there.
Very much. I had my room was way up at the top, at the very, very top in the back. Of course, chief of animation, I had my own room. I was, that climb, the view from my room was to die for. Every day I woke up counting my blessings. I loved the village layout itself for what I was doing. It was perfect. The pool was very interesting. It even had a sandy beach part that went down in the beach that late at night at the discos, girls would remember that spot, sort of thing. It was just I like Playa Blanca a lot. I really enjoyed the village.
Okay. And then after Playa, still we're in October 1985, they send you to Eleuthera for the same type of deal. Chief of animation and choreographer. Geez, I hope you got a stipend. I hope you got a stipend for this, Doug. Okay.
It was all 500 a month.
Okay.
500 a month.
Plus whatever you win from the newt races, right?
you, that stopped. And as I had to remember that after we did finish that first season and all that gambling, I did take $500 worth of orange beads to Cancun. I did drink champagne when I wanted. So for that full season, I never wanted for bar funds.
So is Eleuthera as beautiful as everyone says?
Yes, it's a sliver of the village. It's organized much like Paradise Island in the sense that it runs along a long strip and it's sort of compressed to the beach, so it's long up against the beach. Yeah, Luther was brilliant. It was really fun. I think it was well, the interesting that happens there. Bruce Jenner came there when he was still Bruce Jenner, and I had to chaperone him around. They were doing a radio presentation. That was the village where we took the famous Christmas pictures, where I got the 6 or 7 of the prettiest geos and the 4 or 5 or 6 of the biggest hunks, and we all went down to the beach and we made Christmas cards for each other. All the girls, it was one girl at a time with all the guys around her, and then one guy at a time with all the girls around him. And we took these great Club Med Christmas pictures for ourselves. And it was, yeah, that was a highlight.
You have a photo of that, right? I think.
I think I did post one of the group. I lost the one of just me and the girls. I did post the one of the group. Yeah.
Well, listeners, Doug has a great photo. So when I do his episode and post it on Facebook, he's going to give me some of those photos so you can see them all if you haven't yet. So they're outstanding. This is why Doug is here today. All right. Now, what have I not asked you already that you wanted to talk about? We're still going forward, but is there anything I missed or a story that you wanted to say about a certain village?
I would like to go back to Mauritius Island.
Sure. Let's go back to Mauritius.
I
November 82, correct?
Yeah, I did Haiti, Cancun, Copper Mountain, Paradise Island in a row. And then in Paradise Island, again, I was with Ben Buznina there, and he had made me, and I was an animateur, and that's where I learned to be an animateur. That's all I did at Paradise Island, and actually became really good at it. And who was going to be chief of the village of Mauritius Island? Mike Coltman. So Mike Coltman invited me to Mauritius, where as an animateur, but when I got there was an animateur, so I ended up doing lights and DJ. But Mauritius Island is a special place. It truly is. It's the most beautiful island. I'm not going to say it was my best season because it wasn't my best team, my favorite team. But for a village itself, amazing. Walking home from the discotheque every night and the moonlight shining on the ocean every night between the palm trees, it was beyond magical every night. It blows me away that I went through 6 months of that magic all the time. It was just, they make movies about it. The mountains of Mauritius, I believe, are the ones they use at the opening of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. The mountains off in the distance. So anyway, yeah, Mauritius will always hold a special place. I met Peggy there, and her and I were together that whole season. And I just recently learned that she passed away. And that's and just I learned that by pushing these pictures. And of course, there's pictures of Peggy there and at the Mauritius Island, her and I together in those shots. And someone posted that, yeah, she passed away in childbirth, and that sort of broke my heart. So Mauritius will always be a very special place for me. I love it there. That's where I learned to barefoot water ski. Mauritius, that water ski team was really good to me.
You learned to barefoot there?
Yeah, I was always a good water skier. Dad raced the boats, and we water ski raced when I was a kid, and I could slalom pretty well. But that's where I learned to barefoot. Yeah.
How many times did you eat it, so to speak, before you?
Oh, many, many times until you get it. But
Okay, okay.
the biggest thing about barefooting is you learn to fall, you learn to roll that shoulder and not kill yourself, and come out of it ready to do it again. The first two times I fell, I was amazed at how much the groin area was affected, and you learn to protect yourself.
You have to wear a cup, right? When you barefoot.
Well, yeah, yeah, or protect yourself, yeah, that sort of thing. So yeah, I really enjoyed Mauritius, and the magical thing coming out of Mauritius is they sent me from there to Bora Bora. It
Now,
was like from magic to magics, and the trip was from Mauritius to Africa to Paris to Los Angeles to Tahiti to Bora Bora. So
oh my
all
God.
the way around the world. And when you got on the plane to go from Mauritius to Paris, it was you get on the plane to give you a bag. I thought, oh, nice. No, that were your three meals in a bag. Here you go. And this is your food for the trip.
Oh
And
my God.
coming down from Paris, it was packed, but flying back from Mauritius, it was almost empty. So we were able to stretch out. That was nice.
Well, wait, Doug, are you saying that you went from Il Maurice to Bora Bora without taking the vacation?
I stopped 3 days in Los Angeles. Yeah, I got three
Oh, okay.
days.
Okay, good. 3 days, which is quite a lot back then. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was on the way. It was the stop I had to make anyway to connect up to go to Tahiti. So, and yeah, of course, flying into Tahiti and then jumping on the plane and taking the little plane to Bora Bora and the airstrip out on the coral reef, and then the boat into the village itself, which faces the Motu Tapu, which is the club's private island at that time. It was all more Bora Bora. Also, you could ride around the island in 2 hours on a bicycle. Bora Bora is what it is, and it's nothing can touch it.
It sounds beautiful.
Yeah, again, I don't have a lot of. Petulia Clark came there and recorded some. She had some recordings at piano, and she sang for us. So Petulia Clark downtown and all that. If
Oh,
anyone,
wow. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, she sang at Bora Bora. I had people because it was from Los Angeles. There were, they make friends with the guests. That's how. That's look. You love your geos, but you live with the guests, and so you make friends with them. And they were from where I was from. One time, I was talking to someone about my favorite burrito place, El Tapiac. And so the next week, the group arrives from LA going, one of them has a bag going, where's Doug? Where's Doug? Where's Doug? Evidently, they'd gone to the airport. They'd gone to El Tapiac and then gone to the airport and found the group going to Club Med and found someone going to Bora Bora and gave them the burrito for me. Do you believe that?
I do, but I'm wondering, how was that burrito? Was it still good? Like after all those
Look,
hours?
it arrived literally 11 hours later.
That's not so bad.
No, I heated it up and everyone was eating. Well, look, on Bora Bora, it's one of the few places where I truly do love to eat fish. But yeah, that was fun sitting there eating my burrito in a corner, offering to share it. No one wanted nothing to do with it.
Yeah, don't want to take the chance there.
A unique experience, a burrito from El Tapiac. And then, of course, Timmy and the boat and the outrigger canoes. Of course, they were outboard outriggers, and so they would load up to 15 or 20 people in these long outboard outriggers and go to the Motu Tapu. Timmy was always on the look for stuff. He would stop a couple times. He'd stop and notice everyone in the water immediately. One time I jumped in the water and there was a school of huge giant manta rays, 50, and we were right in the middle of them. It was amazing.
Wow,
Amazing.
must have been
Yeah.
beautiful.
It really was. The last day I was there, four of us took, we had the day off, so we just took a windsurf and we windsurfed not around the island, but to one end and then the other, from the Motu Tapu all the way to the Hotel Bora Bora and back to the Motu Tapu. And when we were coming back to the Motu, there was it was starting to rain, a little drizzle. There was a double rainbow. And I'm thinking, I said to the girl, Laura, that this is so appropriate. I'll never come back to Bora Bora. This is just so magnificent way to say goodbye. And she, oh no, you'll be back. Don't worry, you'll come back someday. No, I've never been back. I will never go back. Bora Bora is what it is. I don't know if I'd want to see it today. I'd say they've completely built it out, and it's another village now. There's no Club Med, obviously.
So from December 80 to April 86 or October 86, you seem to have quite the celebrity encounters. Was there one celebrity encounter that's your favorite, or you just like them all for different reasons?
Yeah, I met Timmy at Bora Bora. You can see him on The Fifth Element. If you know The Fifth Element, they arrive at Fluston Paradise, and it's a Club Med arrival. If you haven't seen it, see it. It's a Club Med arrival with a chief of the village and Timmy there singing the song in Tahitian, and it's a whole Tahitian arrival kind of thing. So it was nice to meet him, and he's a sort of famous singer in Tahiti. I told the story about Sean Connery when they were filming Never Say Never Again, and all of them came through Paradise Island to have lunch that day. They were invited. Carrera walks through, Kim Basinger walks through, and you don't really know who they are. Kim Basinger was unknown then, but you know Sean Connery. And I'm doing the bar game where you bounce the ball into the bucket of champagne, and if it'll stay up on the ice, you get to keep the bucket. And so Sean walks by, and I invited him for the game. Sean, come on, give it a try. No. And of course, I did the terrible thing. Come on, folks. If you want to see Sean try the game, of course, everyone, yay, come on, Sean, what's he going to do? So he come over with a very, he sort of gave me a look. He did. But he smiled at all the people, did it twice, and then went on to lunch. But yeah, that was probably my closest encounter of the third kind. I did meet Sade before she was famous. Muriel Hemingway came to Paradise Island with this singer, said that she's already famous. You just don't know who she is yet. And she sang for us there, and it was Sade.
Oh, wow. That's pretty amazing.
We're sitting with Muriel Hemingway going, Muriel, come on, tell me who she is. Come on, show me who is this. And I got to know Muriel Hemingway pretty well.
Wasn't she Ernest Hemingway's, she's related to Ernest Hemingway, right?
Yeah, his grandniece or something like that. I don't think it's more direct. Yeah, but I got to know her a little bit. And then Sade was there. That same village, a submarine came and visited. We invited them all in the island. So the captain invited us all on the submarine when we could.
Wait a minute. What submarine where? What country?
This was American submarine was visiting Nassau.
Really? Okay.
Island. So we invited them all to the village, and they were there. And then the captain invited, hey, anytime you guys want to visit the submarine, come. The very next morning, I got the rubber inflated the sailing rubber outboard, and I took it out took it right out, jumped in it myself, and just went out there. And I said, hey, the captain, I'm in my Perio. I kid you not. And I go out there and said, hey, the captain, I'm Doug from Club Med. And so they threw a rope down. I literally, scaled the side of the submarine with a rope, right? They tied off the little dinghy I came in, went into the submarine. I was sitting in the captain's cabin talking to the captain when the chief of the village showed up. I'm sitting at the top of the cabin. The chief of the village is on a tour. He hasn't seen the captain yet. I'm sitting talking to the captain. He walks right by. There's the chief. Oh, hey, Doug. Hi, Cap.
Only in Club Med, right?
Okay. Oh, amazing. It was the sun something. I don't remember the name. I have the little tag that goes on your breast that they give you being a submariner. They gave me one of those, and it was fun. Yeah,
did they let you practice turning the key? I'm just kidding. No, they didn't do that.
They had a lot of stuff covered. They had a lot of stuff covered they didn't want you to see everything.
Yeah, or press the wrong thing by accident. Okay.
I got to talk about that if he had nuclear weapons and stuff. And he said, well, we don't have nuclear missiles, but we do have nuclear tomahawks.
Okay.
Okay.
Nice.
That works.
Okay, Doug. Now we're getting close to the end, but you have, if I'm not mistaken, you have graciously agreed to continue your story at another time. Yes, is this still the case?
My pleasure. I was at Club Med for 10 years. The memories all get. That's why it's sort of disjointed this conversation, because as I remember things, they're from different places at different times, and was that season or this season, and so I'm just sharing them. Hopefully, it makes sense as they come up. But yeah, I stopped after. What village was that? Maybe you remember better.
Well, you stopped, I believe, in Punta Cana in January '91. So when we
ended Club Med, but I stopped for about 18 after Paradise Island.
Yeah, you took about a 2-year break. So
about a 2-year break, yeah.
So when we join up again, we'll cover like July '88 to January '91. So I just have one more question before we go. If I ask you now, what are the 3 things you miss the most about Club Med? What would you say? In any order, doesn't matter the order.
The people and the environment. There's no third.
Okay.
The people I was with and the places I was at. That's what made it rich for me. Whether they were GOs or GMs, it was always about the people. The environment was great. But funny, my favorite village isn't my best season. My best season is a season I'd done it for a second time, but the team was magic. There was magic.
That was Magic Haiti, right? That was your
Yeah,
favorite team in October '84.
exactly right. Yeah. And so I think of that time so fondly. I mean, it's just, it has such my heart almost cries when I think about it because it was so special. Other seasons less so. The places were nicer, but not as great an experience.
But so it was really the that Geo team there that was probably
Yep.
you
The
never really
people,
encountered it again, right? Not quite like that.
never that kind of environment of that sort of familiarness, that family atmosphere, being together every day, 24/7, 365, as it were. Yeah, it's very unique working for Club Med, especially back then. And we moved a lot every 6 months. I heard later they didn't move so much, but we moved a lot. And there was a lot of anxiety in the move, going to a new place every 6 months, all the time, and dealing, restarting again. But that kept it fresh. I think it was that anxiety that kept the villages on their toes, if you will. And you didn't get into a routine that was negative to the village, and that worked out.
All right. Well, we're not gonna say so long to you. We are gonna say see you later, Doug, because I would like to hear the rest of your story at a future date. So I would love to have you back on, and I do want to thank you for sharing your story with us here today. It's very kind of you.
Greg, my pleasure. And thank you for the opportunity to let me share them. I've held these in me for so long. No one really wants to talk about the old days of Club Med amongst my friends. And every time I bring the pictures out, my wife sort of groans. So, so thank you very much for letting me share them.
You are always most welcome here, Doug. Well, everyone, that was Doug Evenson. Rest assured, he will be back, and we'll see you all next week. Say bye, Doug.
Bye bye, everyone.